Hello and welcome to the podcast, The Breathing Body. In this podcast, I invite you to journey through conversations which share the fascination of the physical matter we inhabit, the breathing body. We will explore its inherent intelligence, movement, healing, and much more. My name is Florina and I'm the host of this podcast. I'm an osteopath with a background in dance and yoga and based in London where I practice, lecture and research. And I'm so happy that you're here. Thank you. I feel so grateful to share this episode with you and honored to have had the so inspiring Diana Richardson as a guest on my podcast. Yes, Diana's work and reading her books nurtured my own life hugely on so many levels, and I wish it will do the same with you. I just feel really grateful for her so immense generosity to share her experiences and the unfolding insights with us. I feel we had such a dynamic, expansive and physical conversation. Physical in a way as I could not just hear but feel how she shared from such an embodied, true and authentic place. Wonderful. I felt very inspired afterwards and during to slow down, sense, listen, and yes, to allow making love to be a doorway to greater consciousness. Let me tell you a little bit more about Diana for all of you who don't know her yet. So Diana Richardson is considered one of today's leading authorities on human sexuality. She is known as the pioneer of slow sex and is an internationally acclaimed teacher and author in the field of tantric sex and spirituality. Diana has written 8 books on how, in practical ways, a person can experience a more fulfilling sex and love life. She was born in South Africa in 1954, and she first qualified as a lawyer and then trained as a massage therapist in the UK. Her interest in the body and healing prompted an intense personal exploration into the union of sex and meditation, the essence of Tantra. And it's since 1993 since which, together with her partner Michael, she has been sharing her insights and experiences with couples who travel from many different parts of the world to participate in their informative and life-changing Making Love workshops in Switzerland. We talked about what slow sex means and that it might be better described as conscious sex, and how this consciousness, this awareness invites us to become present, and the slowing down is a natural gift, and how presence deeply nurtures the connection to ourselves and the world around and our partner. I hope you will all enjoy our conversation, and I'm looking forward reading your thoughts and comments about it on Instagram or Facebook or any podcast platform you are listening from at the moment. You can see where to find me in the show notes. Welcome on the podcast, Diana. I literally feel very grateful to know that I'm talking to you today, because I think it's such an incredibly important and potent topic or theme, or I'm not even sure what to call it, which you share with your work with the world. And it's my vision to keep sharing that as well in that podcast. And so thank you that you're here on this sunny Wednesday morning.
Okay, well, thank you, Florina. Um, Look, I think it's important at the outset to say that, what I'm sharing and sharing with people in books and courses and so on really came from my own experience. So I haven't studied at all
Mm-hmm.
in this, I've only studied through my body. And then, that was the motivation after many years. Okay, let me put it in a book and see if it works.
Mm.
If I explain in words. So it's just that people know that this comes out of
Mm-hmm.
observing my body again and again and again and putting myself in different situations. So it's not a
Mm-hmm.
theoretical approach.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, pleasure. Thank you very much for inviting me. That's very sweet of you.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. That is really important to roll that out right from the start. And yeah, you are. I was thinking today, what are you? You are the mother, pioneer, research explorer of a new approach or way of experience sexuality, which you call named slow sex. And I remember you saying and reading how this is really so much more about being rather than doing. And into this
Right.
morning, I thought maybe that's a good place to dive into our conversation, where maybe it's just nice to first get a sense what is slow sex. And I could imagine when I first heard that, I thought, but no, hang on, I have to be doing something. How just being.
Right. Look, the first thing I want to mention is about this term slow sex. It's actually not my favorite term because it's slightly
Hmm.
misleading. It's,
Mm-hmm.
it's a good word. Um, my publishers wanted it. I had a film made with that. But actually, important to know is that there is a step before, which is to be conscious.
Mm-hmm.
So ideally, we could talk about conscious sex, right?
Yes.
Because when you're more conscious, more aware, more in the moment, you naturally slow down. You see,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a big difference. It's not like, oh, now I must go slow. How slow is slow?
Mm-hmm.
So, really, ideally, the book, the movie should be called Conscious Sex. But of course, it's not so catchy, according to the publishers. And I agree. Slow sex
Mm-hmm.
is cool. Um, so that is important to say, that it's about awareness and being more
Mm-hmm.
present. And that creates slowness. And the thing about when you're more slow, you're more sensitive and your body can perceive more. Um, the thing is, like you talk about being and doing, like our general idea about sex is that we have to do something to get
Mm-hmm.
somewhere so that we have that experience, right? And the experience that we all want is the peak.
Mm-hmm.
So we very much imprinted with sex is about having a peak. So therefore, we do a lot to get to the peak. And to get there, and we all know it's about raising intensity, raising the level of excitement, raising the level of sensation. And it works mostly. No, um, not for all people, not for all women. Um, so, when we look at that, it's just about doing, and nobody's really present because they're a bit more concerned about if they're going to reach the goal, which is
Mm-hmm.
the peak. So there's a high level of absence. And that causes like a problem in sex because both people participating are going for the orgasm, not really in the very moment. So, slow sex or conscious sex is about coming back to earth and taking things much more
Mm-hmm.
consciously, therefore much more slowly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is important to say that in slow sex or conscious sex, we really take the emphasis off the peak. And this is
Mm-hmm.
very difficult for people to understand. And because, the peak is always very nice, usually very nice, but it's very short. But what actually happens with the peak, it's followed by a discharge, no, of energy,
Mm-hmm.
a loss of energy. And so we all know that experience where we're like totally involved, really, in there, not present, but involved. These are different. And then we come, and then boom, it's over. So it is slightly bizarre. I mean, it always struck me as a little bit bizarre
Mm-hmm.
that you're just like so plugged in, and then suddenly you just pull out the plug and it falls flat. Now,
Mm-hmm.
what is interesting to observe is like how we feel after that
Mm-hmm.
peak. And generally speaking, look, I do speak in generalizations, but even so, that there is a truth in it for many, many people, maybe not 100% of people, but there is a loss of energy. I mean, we hear it, especially for men, but I know for women also, just suddenly is like boom, and there is a level of disconnection. So this person that you've been so, connected with, suddenly it, that connection is gone. And sometimes, men feel a loss of energy. There's disconnection. There's disconnection with oneself as well, not only with the partner.
Mm-hmm.
And with men follows often tiredness, and we know that. It's in the jokes, right? And with women, there is a loss of energy. Women can often feel a bit sad or a bit used or
Mm-hmm.
a bit abandoned, a bit lonely.
Yeah.
So there are, we can say, emotional consequences to the conventional style of sex.
Mm-hmm.
But we never really look at those. We're more interested in the peak. So what happens after the peak is, well, that's what happens. And
Mm-hmm.
that's normal, right? Um, so yes, it's quite a shift in in the way one experiences it, and also goes about it. And like going back to this being, it's more just to be more connected with your body, have more awareness
Mm-hmm.
inside the body, that you can listen and flow with the body. Because if we really look at conventional sex, it's our mind that is dictating to us what to do. It's not the body. Body will do
Yes.
it because body is good.
Mm-hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
follows. But the impulses are coming from the mind. But when we're more conscious and things happen more slowly and with more sensitivity, then we can start to feel what the body wants to do
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and let the body start to flow. And so
Mm-hmm.
this means like, you're relaxing into your
Mm-hmm.
being and
Mm-hmm.
trusting your body, and then allowing things and movements and
Mm-hmm.
turns and twists or whatever
Mm-hmm.
between the bodies, letting it come more from the body rather than the
Mm-hmm.
mind. There is also the aspect of um, one can also lie still, you see, and just let
Mm-hmm.
the genitals, the penis and vagina, just have a little conversation.
Mm-hmm.
We don't always have to be thrusting and moving. But that is an option. Many people have the idea, oh, no, I can't do anything. I've got to lie still. Look, that's an option if you're curious about the more fine, subtle exchanges that happen in the body. So certainly one can move with more awareness and something, and it's not a doing. It's really coming
Mm-hmm.
more from the inside out rather than
Mm-hmm.
the outside in, meaning our mind saying, okay, now I have to uh,
Mm-hmm.
whatever, raise the intensity or, yeah. So it's quite a different approach, but really it's so beneficial because many, many, many couples, their point of separation or their difficulties are
Mm-hmm.
anchored in sex. And
Mm-hmm.
so to bring about a shift in this
Mm-hmm.
area really helps a couple to be together, to stay
Mm-hmm.
together. Um,
Yeah,
so
and
yeah, it's a
suddenly,
big subject.
yeah. Mm. Yeah, and suddenly just want to say, suddenly sex is so much more than yes, it is so much more than the mechanical act of sex. And that's
Yes.
what I think is, that's what I feel is this healing experience or that's the gift of that you shared your experience with all of us, that one starts to realize, wow, this can actually penetrate so many other layers of my being. And I thought it's so interesting that you reminded myself again right now in this moment, the disconnection, because isn't it so often we want to have sex or be close to connect, and then we actually go into the complete different direction, we disconnect even more, but it came from this desire to connect. And yeah, that I find so interesting. And how you said it's not we do it from the mind, and but probably our body would desire a different movement or position or touch or speed, and body knows. I was also thinking about, it's about to perceive my body, not only give to my partner.
Well, Florina, you're very insightful, and just really coming now to what you said. This is the big problem: is that we are more
Mm-hmm.
focused on our partner's body than our own body. So connecting with oneself and one's inner world and
Mm-hmm.
body on a sensual level, this makes all the difference. So
Mm-hmm.
from being like focused on the other, it's like you have to, you're number one, not in a selfish sense, but if you don't have any
Mm-hmm.
awareness or sense in your own body, then it's um, it's going to play out, in
Mm-hmm.
the lovemaking. And
Mm-hmm.
like you said, it's basically it's quite mechanical. We use our bodies like
Mm-hmm.
machines, and for some people it works better than for others. And the body does know, like you say, what
Yes, it
opens
does.
it, what brings
Mm-hmm.
it into a flow. But we need to give
Mm-hmm.
space for that, if you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean. We need
Mm-hmm.
to create space for that we can listen to the
Mm-hmm.
body. But there's so much insecurity in sex, and I mean, especially for men.
Mm-hmm.
Men, what affects men's capacity to be really present is because they have quite a lot of a performance pressure.
Mm. Say
And
more about that. Yeah,
that is a big thing for a man, because the thing is, we need to have an erection, and we need to keep the erection, the man, as long as possible. I mean, as women, we do what we can to support that, but ultimately it's the male
mm-hmm.
aspect, right? So man is constantly, and maybe he's not really aware of it, concerned about keeping the erection. So his attention is actually somewhere else, because for a man, for his erection to fail,
Mm-hmm.
this creates a lot of, like I said, insecurity, but like self-doubt. And
Mm-hmm.
our society, we put way too much emphasis on erection, and it really, men suffer for that. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so when we take away like the focus on orgasm,
Mm-hmm.
and getting there, and maintaining, the erection until we get there, then things come really, really more to ground. And honestly, if the erection goes down, that's also okay. If we kiss and cuddle, and lie around and be more present, very often the erection will come back. But if we're pushing the
Mm-hmm.
erection through, when I say we,
Mm-hmm.
of course, I'm talking about man.
Yeah.
you know, um, when we're pushing with this fear, underlying, this really impacts sex. And honestly, if the penis does lose erection, it's not the end of the world. Whereas for men, it's really, quite intense, and
Mm-hmm.
what he goes through. But honestly, in all aspects of things, there's an active part and then there's a relaxed part. But only in sex we want it to be 100% intense all the time. Um, the thing is, with this intensity comes a lot of insensitivity. So we always, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
movement, a lot of stimulation. After a while, the body closes down a little bit because it's too much. So, like, we emphasize sensation, but too much sensation actually blocks your sensitivity. So, it's
Mm-hmm.
really helpful if a man, if the erection goes down, just let it go down and
Mm-hmm.
be there. Um, Yeah, and there are ways, and it is
Mm-hmm.
described, in my books, that it is highly possible to, um, insert the penis in his relaxed state. And very often
Mm-hmm.
from there, of course, it's a little
Mm-hmm.
art to get him in, the woman puts it in.
Mm-hmm.
But from there,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes an erection will grow in a more organic way, like in response to the vagina. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but also, when the penis is relaxed, he's still a penis. He still has perception. So there's many things
Yes.
in a more conscious approach to sex that
Mm-hmm.
many problems that actually fall
Mm-hmm.
away.
Mm-hmm.
So it's in that way it's incredibly healing.
Mm-hmm.
Which you mentioned about the healing,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of people have had injuries in sex.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, experiences like real trauma sometimes when boundaries have been crossed again and again. But we've all had awkward situations which leave a little bit of imprinting, not big
Mm-hmm.
trauma, as some people have, um, but through this conscious way, all kinds of things can be healed, including, if people have had really difficult experiences in their life. So it is worth exploring.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it opens a different window.
Yeah, it opens new windows. I was really re-inspired when you said how it's nurturing, and I was thinking, yeah, how it can nurture the relationship, but also nurture my relationship to myself. And I thought back to what you said in the beginning, how it's really, yeah, about reconnecting to myself, and it starts with myself. And I was just wondering what are maybe practices or tools, or how can we start to nurture this quality of life, or how can we start to live conscious sex before we are there in the bedroom, in inverted commas, having sex? How can we embed that already earlier on?
Like now, I notice like I'm a little bit collapsed. So I bring myself forward, come up. I immediately feel better. I might even look better. And I've noticed as people stand badly and you come more into, standing with your feet, the weight 50-50. People often lock their knees back. So you always have the knees soft, because if you lock the knees back, it's very hard to feel the body. Breathing, be more aware of your breathing. Relaxation, our bodies, we're often tightening up. Like if I'm opening a door or carrying a parcel, I'm using more tension than I need. So I relax. And so you start to observe in your day um, how you're using your body, and you start to become more present, because basically we all caught up in thought, right? So that's the big shift from thinking, from mind to body, and from
Mm-hmm.
thinking to feeling,
Mm-hmm.
and less doing. more to the being. And so one needs to keep reflecting on one's body, and because that immediately creates present, because there's a lot of talk about being present, but what does that mean in concrete terms? And
Yeah.
to be present, the only way you can be present is to feel your body. If you feel your body in the moment, like right now, just feeling, right, I can feel head to toe, I'm here. I can't think about being present. So my body is like a bridge to the present moment. And that is for anything one does any time of the day. But then in lovemaking, it really starts to make a huge difference. So in lovemaking, basically the thing to realize is that how we are imprinted or kind of conditioned, or how we think it goes, is we put our attention on the other person. So we have to revert that. So instead of thinking about the person, we have to come back to our own body, soften the shoulders, relax the belly. For women, relax the vagina, man, the anus, the buttocks. It's really good to have open eyes, that you're more present. Usually in sex is happening in the dark or with closed eyes. So we can float off into fantasy. We don't really have to be there. But if you open your eyes, then, you are here. But also it's how we use our eyes, because usually with eyes, we kind of like looking at somebody and from outwards. And there's a lot of judgment and prejudice in our eyes, right? So again, we need to rather use the eyes in a more receptive way. Instead of like looking, you just let the eyes receive. And you can practice this with nature, with the moon, with the sunset. You can look, and then you can also just feel inside your body, and then open the eyes very slowly and just let that image arrive in you, because the eyes are designed to see, right? We don't have to
Yes.
see, look.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. We think we're looking. No, so it's again bringing the attention back into yourself. And as soon as the eyes are more in a receptive mode, then you suddenly feel more connection to the person. You feel they look lovely, more sweet. So even how we use our eyes makes quite a big difference. Um, so it's about how to bring little things about body awareness into the lovemaking. And, if I start to notice, for instance, that, oh, now I'm really going for my orgasm, which is understandable because that's the way we used to go, you just suddenly drop back and relax and, soften your body. And you'll feel that energy then starts to spread in the body, and it becomes more of like a full body experience, not just a localized experience. So there's quite a lot of layers to it. Um, yeah.
It's wonderful. The more you talk and I listen, I suddenly feel, actually, yeah, to experience sexuality in a conscious way, it's almost an invitation to return back to something which, which you can think, oh, a whole book about it, but actually it's an invitation to return back to something so pure and in a meaningful way, simple, because it is who we are. We are body, and if I think now back to the embryo in mama's belly, the heart was there way before the brain and the mind were there.
Right. Oh,
So
that's
we
sweet.
are
Yeah.
heart and body, and that's how the embryo would have connected to mom in the belly. I don't know why the embryo comes to my mind now, but I just see your
Mm.
work as an invitation to actually say yes to the nature we are. And that you talk about embodiment is so important. That's what we need in all aspects of life. And then it can just blossom more when I meet him or her. Or
Yes, absolutely. And, like I've said before, you're very insightful. You've obviously got a good connection to your body or a
Mm-hmm.
feeling for this whole thing. And because, you see, I believe it's our natural language.
What is our
It's
natural
something
language?
that, just to be more in the present and more connected to the body.
Mm-hmm.
You see, it's not like we're doing something new. It's actually we're returning to something that we are already, which is,
Yes.
hooking up with what you're
Yes.
saying. So,
Mm-hmm.
but what has come in between us losing
Mm-hmm.
that natural intelligence, we can say, for the body,
Yes.
what's come in between is all the imprints we get about sex.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because if we look at the movies, and now pornography is so prevalent, or all
Mm-hmm.
over the place. So that affects us and what we do and
Mm-hmm.
how we do it and how we think about sex. But actually, if we
Yes.
were not imprinted, if we just grew up in a natural society, we would naturally
Mm-hmm.
make love in a more
Yes.
conscious, present way.
Mm-hmm.
So for me,
Mm-hmm.
often, I say it's like returning to innocence, which is exactly what you were just saying.
Mm-hmm.
No?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and the thing is like
Mm-hmm.
people of my generation, okay, I'm close
Mm-hmm.
to 70 now, um, and a few people of my generation, definitely not all, I had sex before I saw sex,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you see,
Mm-hmm.
and that makes a big difference. So
Yes.
I always ask in my seminars who had sex before they saw
Before
sex,
they saw it.
and hands do
Mm-hmm.
go up, but the hands are getting less and less because
Yes.
the people of my generation, where things were not so, and I grew up in a
Mm-hmm.
farm way out in South Africa, so
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it was just nature. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so that has a
That, yeah.
huge impact on
Mm-hmm.
us. We're seeing sex
Mm-hmm.
before we have
Mm-hmm.
sex, and that
Mm-hmm.
already is a loss of innocence. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember quite some years ago now
Mm-hmm.
that one man in a group, we were talking about a man, doesn't always need to be moving inside women,
Mm-hmm.
thrusting. Now he thrusts, we understand now, because he's afraid of losing his erection.
Mm-hmm.
But in the groups we say, look, it is possible just to go and then hold still, and see what
Mm-hmm.
happens. And this man came to me afterwards, or maybe he even said it in the group. He said, do you know, when I was a young boy and I heard that man enters woman
Mm-hmm.
with his penis, I just visualized that I would just lie there and just be there. But then through movies and, pornography, whatever, you get this, oh my God, I've got to move, I've got to do something.
Mm-hmm.
So I found that really fascinating feedback that,
Mm-hmm.
from a young person and from a man who felt how his natural impulse
Mm-hmm.
just to, I mean, he wasn't making love yet, right? He was still quite young. But in his visualization or his, you know, imagination, that he would just go inside and lie and rest.
Mm-hmm.
But he got distorted
Wow.
then through the
Mm-hmm.
imprinting. And this
Mm-hmm.
imprinting thing is,
Mm-hmm.
we don't really realize it's happening. It is happening over a period of time, but in an unconscious way because of, yeah, the society, the films, the pornography, the secrecy about sex, that it's hidden a little bit. So all these vibrations actually impact us and then change
Mm-hmm.
us, and change us in the way that suddenly we move into a lot of doing. We lose contact with the being, moves us a lot into
Absolutely.
thinking,
Mm-hmm.
not feeling. Um, so yeah, it's quite
Yeah, and the more we see and read and we we orient on the outside, obviously, and as you said in the beginning, it's about from inside out, and not, we completely turn it around. We work from outside in rather than inside out, and then we wonder, oh, why do I feel heavy or sad? Or sometimes just this, people say, I just feel it's weird, or
Yeah.
and that's maybe because we work, like in yoga, we work towards this one posture rather than from feeling the pose or asana from inside, and see yours will look different than mine.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so it is really this process of, yeah, bringing more attention to the inside. Because when we do something from the outside and just hold it, it's actually meaningless. Yeah, it's good, it's a stretch. But like you say, if you go in and you feel it all from the inside, it's a whole other level of benefit, of experience. And yeah, and the thing is, when people, hear about relaxing in sex, like people think relaxing means like collapsing. It certainly doesn't.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're just lying there dead. No, you're there, your body is there, but you keep scanning your body for and notice tensions. Tension, because the shoulders might tense up, the feet, the belly or the jaw. And so you keep um, relaxing different parts of the body, and then internally you get more awareness. And then that, which I already said, starts to spread through the body. So the whole thing is to constantly be monitoring yourself, which sounds like, oh, and now I'm thinking about myself. But it's you're using more awareness. Because actually, when we are tight, when our body is tight and compressed, then the vitality or the energy can't expand. It kind of wants to go out. So the more
And
we
no
get
space to
soft and wide,
flow.
then, exactly. And yeah.
That is really potent what you just said. So the less I'm becoming aware of where I am tight, and I can listen these places and let go, we create, would you say, do we create space inside to then actually on one level have even more awareness about myself and increase sensitivity for my own touch, my partner's touch, like a positive like a positive
Yeah.
cycle, or not? The more I'm aware, the less I can let go of tension, and then actually the more I can feel, and the more I can be aware.
Yes, no, absolutely. And it's about expansion, because
It's about expansion.
when we have expanded experiences, these are really meaningful and nourishing. But if you look actually at conventional sex, it's pretty much compressed. So when we start relaxing, we can also have then very orgasmic experiences, which is different to having an orgasm. An orgasm is something that you build up to have a peak and a discharge. But an orgasmic experience is more when you hold hold the energy, you don't push the body. And then, you can go into really high states. But again, you don't want to make that kind of thing a goal. It happens because you're just here, if you know what I mean. So, yeah,
And exactly this
lots
message is
to talk
probably
about.
is so nice to send out, just to let that we all know it is possible to have sex and actually feel expanded, feel connected, feel warm. I feel, because I thought maybe the last area we can dive into is how to start, how to deal with some challenges, and isn't it a start already to just know actually there is a possibility to re-explore in a way that I feel more connected, more warm, more loving towards myself and my partner. And I mean, you can't describe expansion. It just, you know how it feels when you feel expanded. But would you mind to maybe share a little bit, or how, for maybe some listeners who now think, wow, yes, I would love to to move towards that. How can we overcome maybe a challenge within the relationship when we don't know how to even communicate to my partner, or what could be the drop of start?
Sorry, I lost you there. What could be the drop of?
What could be a start, a first step? Well, we talked about it to come back into our own body, but I
Yeah,
was
yeah,
wondering for people who maybe feel a bit
yeah.
overwhelmed or think, wow, that's going to be a challenge with my partner.
Well, the thing is, you just got to be simple. You make a date, you go to
Yeah.
bed, and you start to make love, right? The main
Mm-hmm.
thing is like we've been making love in a certain way, but now suddenly we want to make love in another way. So we disconnect from where we are because we have a goal. The thing is to make love like you normally make love, but start to be more aware, start to relax, start to open your eyes. It's a process. It's not something that
Mm-hmm.
switch on and off. It would be lovely if you could.
No.
So the thing is it's really good to inform yourself a little bit, like read some of my books, um, and just get a few little tips. I've also got audio books or podcasts and so on. But make a date to go to bed, and you start making
Mm-hmm.
love, and then start to
Mm-hmm.
observe. Okay, like now I'm pushing it,
Mm-hmm.
and then keep relaxing, keep being more present, just keep being more aware, and slowly, you kind of unlearn what we've learned mistakenly.
Mm-hmm.
It is a process. Now, people are very impatient.
Mm-hmm.
They want
Mm-hmm.
results now. But if you really start to
Mm-hmm.
um, observe, you start to see how well you feel afterwards. You mightn't have been great sex. In fact, it might have even been a little challenging. But afterwards,
Uh-huh.
you feel connected to your partner. You feel connected to
Mm-hmm.
yourself. And so, like, it took me some years to retrain myself, right? I never intended, like I said in the beginning, I was just doing this for myself. But then it all evolved into what it is today. Um, Books and seminars and podcasts like with you right now. Um, but with people who I'm teaching now, who come to my courses or read my books, they for them is much easier because I've got more keys in there. I was just more like swimming, just
Yeah,
checking
yeah,
things out.
yeah.
Um, but it's just we're so unadventurous, really. People are happy to do bungee jumping and jumping out of parachutes, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not so adventurous in sex because we feel so deeply insecure
Mm-hmm.
in sex that we just want to control it and keep doing what we've always done because we know that way. So it does require a little bit of like curiosity with no goals
I
in
love
mind.
that. Mm-hmm.
And yeah. And it is life changing. Like I started like when I was
Mm-hmm.
around 30, early 30s, right? So it's been a
Mm-hmm.
long part of my life. And I
Mm-hmm.
can just say that, yeah, I mean, look, well, it changed my life. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
uh,
look at, yeah.
and I do notice, um, like, the younger you can start, the better.
Mm-hmm.
The younger you can start, the better. And I actually did write a book called, in England, it's called Cool Sex. In English and in Deutsch, in German, cooler sex. But for
Mm-hmm.
young adults, just in very simple ways, because for
Wonderful.
them, the pornography thing is really impacting. And well, anyway, so the younger you start, the better. Doesn't mean to say that if somebody starts 50, 60, it's not going to benefit. Of course, it's going to benefit. But
Mm-hmm.
by then, we're pretty much more set in our ways
Yeah.
and not very adventurous. No, and we're not so interested in learning
Mm-hmm.
something. Um, but like in my groups, the oldest participants we've had was a woman of 78 and a man of 82. Now, that is just amazing. A Swiss couple, and they came, like, I think, to 3 seminars over 3 years. Once a year for 3 years. And honestly, their lives changed as a result of that. And I remember the man saying, these are the most important, 7, 8 days in my life, which is amazing. A man of 82 who's had many
Wow.
experiences. It's just more, there's no real information about sex. What we're getting more is ideas and imprints and this hot, steamy idea about sex. If you look at the movies, it's hilarious. People are just like
It's not
ripping each other's
real.
clothes off. No, eating each other up. And so this is, maybe quite a good point to kind of close on is,
I agree.
it's about reducing the sexual temperature to cooling down, to move away from intensity. Of course, always keep it interesting for yourself, that, you don't think, oh, this is rubbish. But it's that idea about hot sex and intense sex that's dominating our minds. And the thing is like premature ejaculation is a very, very common phenomenon with men and younger men. But then this sets a whole sequence of insecurity, self-doubt, a man or boy afraid to approach a woman because he's going to prematurely ejaculate. But if you cool down, you can hold it much longer. So our idea about hot sex really needs to change because, the longer you can make it last, the better. And so we talk about cooler sex. Now, cool doesn't mean cold. It just means, take it easy. Keep the temperature down.
Yeah.
And in that way, then also you start to have these more fulfilling, expanded experiences where you just feel good. And also, you start to notice that after having sex, you still feel connected. You actually feel more love towards your partner. And so you don't have these, what we call the other symptoms of feeling abandoned or loss of energy or whatever. So it's really interesting and definitely worth exploring. And like I said, not with a big goal, but just I'm a human and sex we can have, right? Like with animals, obviously sex is related to reproduction. But in animals, they just have sex in very specific times. And it's all to do with hormones and pheromones and whatever. So therefore they have seasons where they have sex. We can have sex all the time, right? So that must indicate that it has other meaning for us, not only reproduction. But how we make love all the time is actually reproductive style. Like, because the whole aim is to come, no? And so, and when you start to feel more anchored in your own body, more confident in sex, this really supports your life. Because if you're walking around feeling insecure or self-doubt or pulling back because of fear, this impacts you in the very basement of your energy system, in the basement of your being. So if we can get more confidence there, like more anchoring in the body, become more embodied, do different practices like yoga from the inside or Tai Chi, things that require awareness, and then that will come through into your lovemaking. But also, like already I said, was, when you're washing dishes, how are you standing? When you're cooking, how are you standing? Are you crossing your legs over all the time? Now, if you cross your legs over all the time, if you're observant and you take your attention down, I mean, for men, the testicles can get squashed, but But for women, you'll feel, oh my God, actually my vagina doesn't feel so great. She feels all like compressed. So you stop these little habits. Another very common habit is that people will cross their arms, fold their arms over the solar plexus. Now it's comfortable, but if you look from the inside, you feel, oh my God, actually that makes me feel a bit ill.
Yes.
So it's
Wow.
and
I wasn't
sometimes
aware
I
of
see
that. Yeah.
people. Yeah, and sometimes I see people like sitting at my dinner table, not that I have too many dinner parties, but or even in my seminars or talking to people, and people are crossing the arms. I mean, I don't interfere much with people, right? I try not to. But I just want to say, relax take your arms away. Relax the arms, rather put them on your lap. Because immediately when the solar plexus is more open, you just feel better in your body. So there's a lot, to play with and explore, and it just becomes interesting because essentially, like, we're very mechanical with our bodies, and it can almost say that we use our bodies to carry around our minds. So,
That's
and the whole
wonderful.
education is oriented on the mind and education, studies. So, yeah,
Wow,
good,
thank
Florina. Well, that
you.
was
Thank you
fun.
so much. The sentence I finish off was is that whilst I now listen to you, I loved what you said about adventure and curiosity. And for myself, I added soft curiosity and soft adventure. And I had this to pose this question. Also, there was a sense of playfulness. What happens if we just let our brain melt a little bit and just let our bodies explore and communicate and do, and also allow oneself to be surprised, see what happens. Maybe things unfold which didn't before, and with lots of, also soft playfulness. That's the two words, the two last words I share.
Well, I really love this thing about playfulness. What you said, that's really, really a perfect way to finish because we're so serious about sex.
Yeah.
And if you can just make it a play, you just go to bed, you just like massage, touch, kiss, cuddle, be playful, not so focused.
Yeah.
And of course, when we talk about focus, that's hard. And you say soft, and that's right. And actually, when your attention is more with yourself, it's a much softer approach. It's not like so directed on your partner or the result. So you're very great, Florina. Well done, my
Wonderful.
dear.
Softness, playfulness, and then how can that not result in expansion and even more consciousness? And we made a whole circle.
Yes, exactly.
Wow.
Right.
Diana, I feel deeply re-inspired, and it's just so important I'm grateful that you share your experience with us. That's what I'm trying to say. And I hope that many, many listeners will take something or a lot from this conversation. And I'm looking forward to our part 2, where you said you would be willing to share more about, your book, Feeling versus Emotions, but that can rest a little bit and be explored with our listeners later. Thank you so much,
Florina,
from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you, my dear. Bless you, my dear. You're awesome. Okay.
Bless you.
Ciao, ciao.
I hope you enjoyed this episode, that you gained a lot of inspiration and insights, and that it widened your horizon just as much as mine. You can find all information about Diana's books and works and retreats, etc. in the show notes. And I'm already super excited and pleased also to let you know that Diana agreed to be guest again, hopefully soon, where we will continue our conversation and talk about her newest book, which is called Feeling versus Emotion, the Golden Rules for a Happy and Healthy Relationship. If you did enjoy this episode, and in general, I'm really looking forward reading your thoughts and comments about it on Instagram or Facebook or any podcast platform you are joining us at the moment. Tell me, what did you think about it? What did you take from this episode, and how did it inspire your path and journey? Every like, follow, share and comment is a great support and inspiration for me to keep going with this heart project called The Breathing Body. And as always, a huge thank you to the band Asperian, which is playing the wonderful intro and outro music. You can find the full track and all their details in the show notes too. I wish you all a wonderful day and week. Trust your feet, body and heart. Love, Florina.